Hello, everyone. Welcome to Happiness. Today, we're going to talk about fear of happiness, and it is actually a real thing. So, I'm Pirette, I'm a happiness expert, and today, my guest is Liam, and he's joining us from Scotland. Hi, Liam.
Hi, how are you today? Okay,
Good, all good. How is
good.
the weather in Scotland?
As always, it is raining heavily.
Rainy.
Yeah,
It's
always the
actually
same in
raining
Scotland.
in Florida. It was raining this morning in Florida as well. It was not Florida weather today.
That's just standard for Scotland. Just rain every day. Every so often, we might get some sunshine, but very rarely.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, so before we go to our topic of fear of happiness, I always start all the guests with the same questions. What is your personal definition of happiness?
So for me, I think happiness has evolved throughout my life. So from a younger age, happiness can just be the most simple of things, and then as being a young man, as you get older, it changes to bits and pieces. But for me, proper true happiness is to see others get enjoyment from life. So being a parent, for me, the happiest I'm at is when I watch my children being happy and enjoying something. Um, so in terms of a dictionary definition, I think it varies quite significantly. However, for true happiness, I think fulfillment and enjoyment in other people's is what I see as happiness.
Hmm. I always like that's why I like to ask it because like people think that happiness should all be like the same kind of like one concept. Everybody like strive to get the same, but they would just like try to point out that they should actually like think of what is it for them
Yeah.
and not to try to like pursue something that's like somebody else's and just know
Mm-hmm.
what is their own and pursue their own.
Exactly. I think if you just ask a generic, what is happiness, what is success, what is could be many things, is wide open there. However, if you ask an individual, what does happiness look like to you? What does success look like to you? Then you'll get the better idea of it. Because then it causes someone to reflect on it and think of what it actually means to them rather than what answer you're looking for, which is what people try and give. They try and give the answer that they think someone's looking for. So, like, of a young age, like, i.e., being a young man, happiness generally is spending time with friends. But as you get older, it starts to become toward, for me, it's more about family. That's happiness. So it'll
Mhm.
evolve and it changes. Whereas others at a younger age might not like to be in a group of friends. They might like to their own time. So for them, happiness could be solitude. So it varies so significantly from person to person.
Yeah, and I like what you just pointed out as well that like with it when your life changes that it changes as well. It doesn't have to be the same meaning that you had in a high school. It doesn't have to be the same meaning for your happiness when you already become an adult and it changes and you don't have to like hold on or what you were thinking happiness was in the past because that's
Mhm.
where you're holding on yourself in the past anyways from everything.
Yeah, exactly. I've never been much of a fan of like a one size fits all. Like saying this word has one meaning, this event has one meaning or one outcome. I like it to all flow and change for each individual and each person, right? Because everyone's got a different thought process, different ideas, different views. So therefore, you can't just have the one definition for something. It has to vary for person to person.
Yeah, exactly. So you also have prepared like actually really good presentation for the fear of happiness.
I have indeed, which a lot of people don't realize it. It's an actual thing. It's called kerophobia, which comes from the Greek word of kero, which means rejoice. So it's a fear of rejoicing with the word
Let me,
phobia at the
yeah,
end.
let me put the slides that you
Yeah,
prepared up as well, and then I'm gonna give you all the time to talk about it, and I'm gonna ask some of the question in between if they come up.
perfect. Sounds
Okay.
good.
Okay, let's go to the screen. Okay, and there it is. How do you pronounce it?
Kero. Oh, sorry, not Kero.
Carophobia.
Chero. Chero. It says the ch sound. Cherophobia. I keep saying Kero, but it's Chero.
Oh, it's Cheryl. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Cherophobia. Real name for our fear of happiness.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like when you throw a phobia onto someone, it shows it's a true fear. However, we know from phobias that they're irrational. I.e., for depending on what country you're from, there's arachnophobia, the fear of spiders, especially in the UK, they can't hurt you. So therefore, that's what a phobia is. It's an irrational fear, and it comes the same with the fear of happiness. So there will be that fear of it. However, it is irrational. There is absolutely no reason to be afraid of happiness. It can't do anything. It can't hurt you, which is what we'll kind of go into through some of these slides as well.
Mm-hmm. We're going to the next one. So this is about a little bit about yourself as well. So let's talk about you.
Yeah, excellent. Not my favourite topic in the world. However, I will give it a shot anyway. So I'm 36 years old. I'm a husband and a father. I live in Glasgow, Scotland. I got an interest in mindset and how the mind works, mainly from dealing with a rough childhood. So a couple of years back, I had to go to a few specialists to deal with some childhood traumas that I never fully dealt with, that kind of presented themselves in adult life. And then that allowed me to see these different phobias and how they can transpire, likes of cherophobia being one of them to an extent. And I linked a lot of things that happen in childhood to how you are as an adult. So it's shown how a lot of the childhood trauma that I've went through that I've able to get over and move on with life and become much more fulfilled and happier as an adult. And then before my profession as a police officer, I've spent a lot of time doing mental well-being. We've had to speak to people who are basically the ends of suicide, wanting to completely end it all and having to talk them away from that. So it's given me a great understanding of the mental mind and how people work, and to see them at their absolute lowest when they're completely at their most vulnerable. I'm also a domestic abuse specialist, again, training I've had from our profession. And what that does is allows me to see how domestic events that have happened in someone's life can lead to things like cherophobia, of a fear of happiness, generally from a partner saying that you don't deserve to be happy, etc. And what I currently do is I still spend time offline in my profession, but also online. I do affiliate marketing, I do coaching. Coaching is in affiliate marketing, but also helping people overcome traumas, and also create courses to assist with those things as well.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. That's you found how to take your experiences and help others.
Yeah.
You know? How to teach everybody.
Yeah. So the full disclosure is I'm not a medical professional, but I will give views on what's happened to me and how I've got over things to see if that relates to others or things that I've seen and experienced to people who have changed their lives.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'll let you take over now and let me know when you want me to change the slides.
Yeah, of course. So there are a few different symptoms of cherophobia, and medical experts have linked to being very close to anxiety. And if anyone who suffers from anxiety, you'll know anxiety is a fear of the future. And what tends to happen is when you experience a moment of happiness or joy in your life, some people who suffer from cherophobia will instinctively expect something bad to happen next. And then that comes from the anxiety side of things, of always being on edge, not liking social situations, not wanting to go out and enjoy things because of the fear that something bad is going to happen. So it doesn't come from the actual fear of the happy thing, the happiness going on. I'm trying to find a word without saying happy happening. But with the happiness going on at the current time, that isn't the actual part that they're afraid of. It's what's going to happen next. Because what people tend to do is they're in a moment of happiness, a moment of enjoyment, and they think, well, this isn't going to last. Something bad's going to happen to take this away from me. And another symptom of it is rejecting any form of positive change. So stuck in a profession they don't enjoy and finding a job they would enjoy, not wanting to go into it because of the fear that it's going to get taken away or something bad's going to happen. And then it's going to result in losing that happiness as well. And there's also the whole refusing to kind of join in the fun, so to speak, i.e. not wanting to go into social situations, not want to be around loads of friends, because there's always this it's sort of in your mind an inevitable downfall that's going to happen. That something bad's going to happen further down the line. So if you go out and you have too much fun, something bad's going to happen. And it just becomes that cycle that repeats over and over and over again. And there's also the way of thinking, well, if I go out and have fun, I shouldn't be having this fun because I don't deserve it. So it comes from two frames of mind. One of thinking there's going to be a negative result of being happy, or one of thinking you don't deserve to be happiness. And that's where things like childhood trauma or domestic trauma usually comes into play. It could be from things like parents saying that you don't deserve happiness, you don't deserve to be enjoying things, or that kind of phrase of what you're so happy about when someone's feeling down, they want to take away someone else's happiness. So if that's a phrase you've heard a lot of, well, why are you so happy? You'll tend to look inward and think that you don't deserve to be happy at all. And again, that can come from childhood or it can come from adulthood when it tends to be domestic situations or, really, really poor social circles.
Can it be also like cultural programming? Like I think in my country where I'm originally from, and some other Russians' country as well. Like I'm from Estonia, and I think we have some Russian programming as well. Is like they have this actually like saying that the happiness doesn't last long, or like what's the other one? There's consequences for happiness, but like they have those sayings and they actually don't have any truth behind it.
Yeah, exactly. There's definitely a cultural and to an extent a religious element as well. So, like, being in Scotland, where we're not exactly the happiest of folk sometimes, it might be the weather, and it could be the cultural upbringing as well. But yeah, you're brought up to think that happiness doesn't last forever, that it's just a small amount of something, that the rest of the time it's just going to be all doom and gloom. And then there's also the kind of religious element of it. Like for me, I was no longer practicing, but I was raised Catholic. So those whole certain things that you would enjoy are actually a sin. So therefore, if you're brought up in a household like I was, everything was a sin. So therefore, you're not allowed to be happy. That's bad. That's evil. Mm-hmm. So there's also a religious aspect as well as a cultural aspect of it as well. So there's so many things all around that are just pushing you to not be happy and to fear being happy because something bad's going to happen if you are. So therefore, people just try and avoid being happy.
Mm-hmm. And or like the way it is as well. I remember in my past when I was still working on it, like when I did feel happy, then that was the moment that I got scared. Like because like that previous programming that maybe now something else will happen because of that, which is actually whatever happens, it doesn't happen because I'm happy now, and I should actually completely enjoy the happiness now. And that's what I learned. But it took time to reprogram myself to learn to get that thought away that something will happen because of this and just rejoice this moment now without that fear.
Yeah.
It took practice.
Yeah, every change of mindset takes practice. It doesn't come easily, but you have to, once you realize what your triggers are and what your thought pattern is, it becomes easier to intercept it. When you don't know, it's difficult, but once you start to realize your thought pattern, and we're just coming into it, you can intercept it much, much easier. For me, when I was going through some sort of things, I was able to intercept like anger thought patterns. Once I felt myself getting frustrated, and mine would start off as stress to anxiety to anger to guilt. So because I know the emotional attachment to that feeling, I know when I start to feel stressed out, if I go, okay, I'm getting stressed, I can stop it before it gets to the anxious stage, which means it never gets to the anger and the guilt stage afterwards. So once you work out what your normal thought pattern is, and if you sit down, you could probably think back to your life and pinpoint it. What triggered this emotion? What triggered this thought? And then you can interrupt it. And then you work on it and you work on it. And before you know it, how you interact and how you feel completely changes, because everything's all programming in your mind. And that's why we have things like CBT, the cognitive behavior therapy, to change your thought patterns. But yeah, and the power spot up there just now, like common thought patterns. And the first one being like as you said is if we just jump back, or have we jumped ahead?
Go
I don't
back.
know where we are now.
Okay, no, go back. Wait.
Common thought patterns. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So one of them being, if you are happy, that means something bad's going to happen. And again, that could be cultural, it could be childhood, it could be adulthood trauma, it could be any of those things. But it's a case of trying to have a think to yourself of, is that your thought pattern? Is that how you feel? That when you feel happy, do you think something bad's going to happen next? And this also closely links into the human nature of control. We like to be in control of things. When something's out with our control, we panic because we don't know what's going to happen. So therefore, if we think being happy means something bad will happen, we can control something bad from not happening by not being happy. And that's how our mind will work. But nothing we can do can stop a bad thing from happening. Bad things just happen. Unfortunately, that's just life. We need to take the good and the bad. There has to be some form of balance there. It can't be all good. It can't be all bad. But that's not the way our mind works. Our mind thinks that if we start being happy, it's going to be something bad's going to happen. Therefore, if we are not happy, nothing bad is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So once we start to realize that bad things are just going to happen anyway, we don't have any control over them, we can allow ourselves to be happy and actually enjoy those moments more. And that was one of the things I came to realize, that it was okay to be happy. You should appreciate and enjoy those happy moments, and give as much as you can to them, because when the bad moments happen, they're not as bad because you've still had those happy moments as well.
Mm-hmm. So that's what just made me think about it. What the word for it would be, you would have to disconnect those two things. Disconnect that something bad will happen, and disconnect from like having a good time and enjoying the happiness in this moment. So you have to disconnect those two things.
Yeah, definitely. Like from a young age, your minds are trying to absorb everything around about us. So this is how we develop our thought patterns. We develop them at a young age, and unless we interrupt those, that continues right the way through adulthood. But at a young age, we don't understand things, so our brain makes up whatever it can for it to make sense internally, and that's why we'll have things like, well, if I'm happy, something bad's going to happen. It could be because at one point in your life, maybe you were 5, maybe you were 8, whatever it was, that you were really happy, but then a grandparent died like the next day or something. And it might be that's a very crazy reason, but it could be something like that. So therefore,
Mm-hmm.
your brain, your mind will say, well, if I'm going to be happy, something bad's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just trying to think of what is the trigger for it. And once you find the trigger, you can start to undo it. It just might mean that your brain has created that thought process at a young age, and then you've never corrected it. So therefore, it still remains prevalent in your adulthood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you just have to disconnect and like not to connect the bad things that happen and the good things that happen.
Mm-hmm. I can't remember
Are
if
you
we
ready for this one?
just go back one just to see where it was. I can't remember if I covered everything there. So my vision's
Mm-hmm.
a bit. Yeah, I think kind of like showing that you're happy is bad for you or your friends and family. Trying to be happy is a waste of time and effort. Like that is a cultural one. The trying to be happy is a waste of time and effort. Like, what's the point in being happy? Nothing good's going to happen, so you just don't bother. And that tends to be a bit more of a cultural one as well. Yeah, we could jump to the next slides.
Well, I have a comment for that as well. Like I had one guest that she was saying that she was brought up like Jehovah's Witnesses,
Mm-hmm.
and that's their mentality, is that like all this life is waste of time, and then they just living through this life to die to get to the next life. So that was like exactly what it says. Like they just like don't they just
Yeah.
waiting to die. The way we finally figured it out, they're just waiting to die. Not a nice thing to say, but like we have this one life. Like I don't think being happy is a waste of time and effort, because I can't imagine it like that, living that way.
Yeah, it's a difficult one as well, because you're trying to be mindful of someone's religion and their beliefs. However, at the same time, like, you still want people to try and be happy. Like you do have that sense of like, if you suffer in this life, your next life is going to be greater. Like that's the whole point. They're kind of seeing it as a short-term suffering for a long-term gain. However, if you are not of the same view or religion, then that doesn't make, so for like that example myself, like I'm not going to go into it, but I don't have the Catholic faith anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore I enjoy this life because I believe this is the only one we have.
Mm-hmm.
But try to tell it to someone else who doesn't have the same belief it's not going to go anywhere. So it's a really hard thing to undo, but it just shows you how much religion and culture can play a massive part in happiness.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So this one's just an exercise for all your viewers to try. And it's 3 very simple questions. However, if you answer yes to any of them, then you do have cherophobia. It's as simple as that. So are you afraid to let yourself become too happy? Do you believe that you don't deserve to be a happy person? And when you're happy, do you suspect that something unpleasant is going to happen next? So if you answer yes to any of those questions, then that straight away tells you that there is something there in your thought pattern that we're going to have to undo slightly. And I would if I'm asking myself these questions, which is what I tend to do when I'm working on mindset, I'll ask myself these questions and then I'll always follow up with a why. So if I was to say, are you afraid to let yourself become too happy? Why? What do you think is going to happen if you become too happy?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if I become too happy, something bad's going to happen. Well, what bad thing's going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? Well, I don't know. So how do you know something bad's going to happen? I don't. So once you start to ask yourself the questions and just keep asking why, it lets you start to see that without sounding too, what's the word for it? Don't know what word I'm using, but without sounding too uppity about it, it shows how simple it is and that you're really overreacting to an extent.
Mm-hmm. It's like automatic thought.
Yeah.
It's automatic thought in your that your brain creates, and then it's just like you were just saying, with keep on asking why, you break that thought, and it starts unrevealing of like that it's not real.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Once you start to realize it, then you can start to undo those thought patterns. Like this is why it falls into the realms of a type of anxiety, because it's the fear of what's going to happen in the future, which is what anxiety is fear of future events. Depression's fear of previous events. And the one for there, do you believe you don't deserve to be happy? So why do you think you don't deserve to be happy? A lot of the time you're thinking back and it'll be childhood, social circles, domestic events of someone saying you don't deserve happiness, or you don't deserve this person, you don't deserve me, you don't deserve X, Y, Z, whatever it may be. Hearing someone say that, you don't deserve it, especially when you're at your most vulnerable, it implants in your mind so much more severe.
So that's
like if someone said that to me now, it would be water off a duck's back. However, if someone said it to me maybe 10, 15 years ago, that would be taken on board and be stuck like a seed, and it would just keep growing.
Mm-hmm. And that makes me think, because I'm the person who, like, I think I deserve all the things. So where this belief of not deserving comes from? You're thinking like it is from the past childhood, or why would somebody think that they don't deserve it?
So for me, it was childhood, having parents of saying you don't deserve this, and that might be the case for a lot of people. From experience of working in domestic instance, a lot of it could come from that, from partners saying that, look at you, you're nothing, you don't deserve anything. And it's just that feeling of being so small, and because of the situation you're in, i.e. if you're a child, you've got an adult telling you it, therefore you're more vulnerable. It's more likely to implant that seed. In a social situation, from friends, if you're the kind of weaker minded, without a lack of a better word for it, of the friends that'll say you don't deserve this, you don't deserve to wear that dress, you don't deserve to go out with people. Hearing those kind of things, if you're the more vulnerable one, it's going to plant the seeds. So
it becomes
a child never tells themselves they don't deserve. If you think of a child at like 2 or 3 years old, they don't think I don't deserve that toy, because they're going to throw a tantrum if they get told no, they're not getting it. They think I want that, I'm having it. So at some point in your life, there has to be a moment where someone tells you that. It doesn't just fall to you coming up with it from nowhere. Has to be something at some point that says to you that you don't deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, it tends to be other people saying it, but you also get that aspect of feeling so self-conscious or self-hatred that you just hate yourself so much that you think you don't deserve happiness. But if you flip that around and think of people who, in maybe celebrity world, who aren't nice people, who we think don't deserve that, but they've got it. So why do you not deserve it? If they don't deserve it, but they've got it, so who's to say you can't have it?
Mm-hmm.
You're the better person. You're more outgoing. You're better to other people. So who's saying that you don't deserve it? It's there for people to have. It's there for people to take.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to. It takes that switch in the mind to see that no, I do deserve it. I'm going to have it. And there's all that whole thing of if you think you deserve something, are you egotistical? Are you narcissistic? So there's also that poor connection we've got to people who think they do deserve things, or thinking they're not nice people, but you don't want to be like that. So therefore, you go the opposite way and you think I don't deserve it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. But and with the last one, when you're happy, do you suspect that something unpleasant is going to happen next? I had that when I was younger, but I think with that sentence, like occasionally, it seems like occasionally everyone, like at least me, occasionally, like I have those thoughts coming up. So I don't think I have like fear or happiness full time, but like occasionally I am scared of it.
Yeah, especially from a young age, it depends on what's going on around about you. So for me, like I would either be in a household with violent, aggressive parents, or I'd be at school with violent and aggressive children. So there was no escape. So therefore, something bad was probably always going to happen most days. So that's where that connection comes in of me. Why would I be happy because this bad thing's going to happen? There was nothing I could have really done about that. That was the situation I was in. But whether I was happy or not wasn't going to change that. But as a child, you make sense of going, if you are feeling happiness, well, something bad's going to happen because you're stuck in a life where something bad's going to happen next anyway. So that's where that can kind of play in. So it depends on what situation you're currently in. However, that then transpires into adulthood where you always think something's around the corner. So I don't know about your childhood, or now when you think that something unpleasant is going to happen next.
Yeah, but that made me think about like not to give that kind of thought now to next generation. So like have to teach our kids not to make that connection. So like for the parents as well, like try to find a way to teach the kids disconnect that something that happened that was not pleasant is connected to something that's happening that is joyful and happy.
Yeah, like as parents, we've got a duty to make sure that we don't make the same mistakes our parents did. For me, for a childhood where, like, I remember specific moments of being, like, birthdays, for example, of getting something and feeling really joyous about it, but then 2 seconds later getting taken away from it just because I had parents that didn't want to see you being happy. And therefore, the main important thing is you still have to set some sort of rules for children, but you don't take it away with rather happiest. There's certain things you have to kind of be more mindful of what lasting damage it has. And that, again, as I'm saying, you still have to have some form of boundaries and rules. However, you don't just take something away just because your child's happy. You have to allow people to enjoy their happiness a lot more. If you're an inherently bitter person, then that's your internal thing that has to be fixed. But it doesn't mean that you get to take other people's happiness away. And I think that's where this can be very, very toxic, is some people can go so far one way that they just don't want others to be happy as well. And there are people out there like that who will try and piss on your parade, for lack of a better term for it.
Yeah, that's kind of like, I think that's like, now you bring it up, and that is a major problem in all society, is the thing, like the people who are not happy or they have problems, they're taking it all off on other people.
you think about internet trolls, for example. Like we've got thousands upon thousands of them. Like they purposely go out there. You could have like we'll take some woman on TikTok creating a video, feeling good about herself for the first time in ages, and all it takes for some little scrote to come out and then absolutely tear her down, and it's pathetic. But there's so many people out there ready to do that, and that could also be where this comes in, because she'll be thinking, what's the point in being happy if they're going to just make comments? And the problem is with those people, they're so unhappy in their own lives that they get fulfillment by tearing to other people's happiness instead. That's what makes them feel better about themselves, which is the wrong way to do it. Mm-hmm. However, mentally, it has a similar effect.
Yeah. So
I think that heading is duplicated from a different one, but it's going to be who are more likely to suffer from it. So the first one there is
even for me, I don't know what is balance conundrum.
Conundrum.
Yeah.
So balance conundrum would be if in this way, it's what I call kind of reverse karma. Everyone thinks that life has balance, and it does to an extent. So you think if I am happy, I must be sad at some point, because that's the balance that keeps things even.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the whole thing about karma. Do good things will happen. Do bad things will happen. The standard karma, but there's the reverse karma of people who want the kind of yin and yang balance to work out. Of if you feel very happy, you're going to have to feel sad as well to keep it level and even, so that there becomes that kind of balance conundrum where it's not a positive way of balance. It's the kind of weird negative spin on balance. I don't know if that's making sense.
Kind of.
Another cause that come from things like trauma or abuse, childhood, domestic, could be a little situation that can bring it on, as we've kind of talked about. If you're an introvert, you're more likely to suffer from cherophobia, because you'll have things like social anxiety. So you'll have this fear, well, I don't want to go out, I don't want to be happy, I don't want to be around people. You're more likely to have cherophobia. And one that might surprise some folk is if you're a perfectionist. Some people, and this could be a cultural thing again, of happiness is unproductive. So if you're happy if you're, say you're working on a project, if you're happy at that project and you're saying, oh, well, I'm really happy with that, that would mean it's finished. But if you're a perfectionist, you're going to think that, well, there's always something that can be improved on, so therefore you're never going to be fully happy, because you're going to be looking to improve, so you don't allow yourself to be happy, because happiness is seen as you settling rather than striving for the excellence. So if you're a perfectionist, you're more likely to have cherophobia, and minds can come in a little bit from there. From again, that tends to be childhood, of saying, well, you're not good enough yet, you're not good enough, you need to do better. So therefore you keep pushing to try and be better and better. So therefore you don't allow yourself to be happy and enjoy success. Like for some people, that might be getting the silver medal. I didn't get the gold, but I'm still happy because I achieved something. Whereas if you're overly competitive, perfectionist, you're going to go, no, that's not good enough. Mm-hmm. So therefore you're not allowing yourself to be happy.
So that's kind of like goes back to what actually most people do. They have like their happiness is somewhere in the future. Mm-hmm. You know, that's where we get it. Like it's somewhere in the future. If this gonna happen, then we're gonna be happy. If this gonna happen, then we're gonna be happy. And so like to see how many happy things happened actually today, small things, and just like there was a happy day, instead of like thinking like, well, no, but because it's not happy because I still don't have this and this and this. You know, yeah. It's like putting happiness somewhere in the future without seeing that today was a happy day based on those little things, and maybe some things that you didn't want happened as well. But in general, it was a good day, or it was okay day. Or sometimes it's even a bad day, but still like, then you go to the next day.
Yeah, next day's a new day, start all over. So therefore, you've definitely hit the nail on the head there. Like, especially with people that are perfectionists. Like, if you think of people in business, they achieve a goal, there's always the next goal, and the next goal, and the next goal, and the next goal. So every time you achieve something, there's the next stage. So therefore, you don't allow that happiness moment. You always think, well, and we'll take it to business sense. So if I make my first million, then I'll be happy. You've made a million. Well, when I make 10 million, I'll be happy. When I make 100 million, I'll be happy. And then it can go to the more social aspects of life of when I get that job promotion, I'll be happy. When I'm a manager, I'll be happy. When I'm a senior manager, I'll be happy. Or when I get married, I'll be happy. When I have kids, I'll be happy. So you're always looking for those things in the future that are going to give you the happiness, rather than trying to look and see, well, what is it about now that makes you unhappy? What's the actual root cause of the problem?
And actually, like, to be happy, like when you're actually like that, you had this goal. Okay, I had this goal. You reached this goal. Now take that time to be happy, like you said you're going to be. Like take that time, and like enjoy that moment when you reached one, like small goals, small daily goals. Even doesn't have to be, and that's where it starts from. Starting to enjoy those small goals instead of just like looking only for that bigger goal and try to put the happiness away in the future.
Yeah, like exactly. One of the things people tend to do is always have something in the future to look forward to, whether it be a holiday or event or something. They always try and have something in their social calendar that they're looking forward to, but that actual thing doesn't make them happy. It's that looking forward to something. So you end up in this whole complete circle that goes round and round. Whereas I look for small things that make me happy. I enjoy ice cream. So therefore, when I eat ice cream, I'm happy. That causes a whole host of things when it comes to food and people's unhealthy obsessions with food, because that's another one. People are happiest when they're eating because it does give you that enjoyment. Therefore, it's a different sense of happiness and people overindulge in it. But it could be something like that. Like it could just be going outside. It could be a walk. Like I do, fun enough, enjoy the rain. I like to watch rain, even though I see it every single day. Like that does make me happy. And it's having that more appreciation of those little things that can make you happy every single day, rather than trying to create these big, huge events that are not going to give you that fulfillment. So how, if you do suffer from gerophobia, there's different ways it can affect you. For example, employment opportunities, because you think you don't deserve to be happy, you don't deserve the opportunity, so therefore you don't go for promotions at work. Or it can cause that one effect we were talking before, where you keep going for more and more and more, but it's not actually bringing you happiness because you haven't got to the root problem of where it comes from. It can be the same with relationships. It can end up you don't want to get in a relationship because you're scared if you go into a relationship. And this is more prevalent when it comes to domestic situations, because from, if we take the domestic abuser's textbook, the relationship with someone who is a textbook domestic abuser, it starts off very, very happy. You're love bombed with flowers and gifts and all sorts of things, and then suddenly the controlling aspect starts to come in. So therefore, if you've been affected by that previously, you will fear going into a relationship, because if it starts off really happy, you'll be expecting to take that nosedive at some point where they start to show those same behaviors as previous partners. And that's one example for it, but it could be previous events, or it could just be that you think that if you're going to be happy with someone, something bad's going to happen to them or to you. Because there's that. And then it comes in again with children. People who won't have children because they're worried about something bad happening to them. Well, unfortunately, it might. Again, that's part of life. However, you shouldn't let that hold you back from enjoying those moments.
And I think with relationships as well, it goes like a lot of times those people who scared of happiness, they project it on their partner. And then they, like, when the partner is, like we said before, like somebody else is happy, they try to make them unhappy, because the way you were saying, like, why should they deserve it? Which is, there's no reason why somebody doesn't have to not deserve happiness. They just can be happy without, that's not even a question, do I deserve it or not?
Yeah, like happiness isn't something that's deserved or undeserved. It's a feeling and an emotion. that everyone can have or go through. Like, it's got nothing to do with your past or your future. It's just to do with the emotion of what's happening at that time. And it will change. It goes up and down. But that's it. It's the same with like sadness. It's the same with anger. All those things are all emotions that we as humans will naturally feel. And with relationships, there's also that aspect then of, if you are in that situation of, you think if you're happy, something bad's going to happen, you'll then possibly not want your partner to be happy in case something bad happens to them because they're happy. So you'll try and stop them being happy, and it just creates this whole massive mess of things. So it's, and then education as well. People who maybe want to go back into further education, maybe into their 20s, 30s, whatever, and want to go and study for a degree, thinking that it'll make them happy, they go, well, I don't want to do it because if they're happy, something bad's going to happen. What if I fail at it? So it can fall in there. And the same with friendships as well. That whole thing of, if I go and get education, it'll put me in a situation where I'm happy, something bad's going to happen. If I go hang out with friends or go out with friends, something bad's going to happen because we're too happy. So all of that's going to affect massively.
So how can we disconnect it in relationships?
So in relationships, it's a tricky one, especially when looking for new partners, because you never know. I always think this is why I tend to just do what I want anyway. I never know what someone is thinking, what someone's feeling, and even if they tell me, they can still tell me lies. So therefore, I don't fully know. I can never fully know. The only thing I can control is my own feelings and my own emotions. So therefore, that's what I do. So when it comes to relationships, it's more so about trying to allow yourself to be open, a bit more happy with things. But if you are someone who projects what you're feeling to someone else in terms of, if they're happy, something bad's going to happen to them, you have to figure out why that's going to happen. Communication is massively, massively important when it comes to relationships.
Yeah.
But you're also going to be quite guarded because of, if you're someone who's suffered from domestic abuse in the past, of going to that relationship where someone's just doing absolutely everything for you, just trying to make you super happy. You know how that, or in your mind, you know how that usually turns out. That's a tricky one. That's usually better experience with a domestic abuse counsellor. However, it's just trying to be more aware of it and having someone that balances the right level. But, this is going to a whole different relationship advice. I'm not the expert for that by far. Definitely not the expert when it comes to relationships. But it's just to be more mindful of your thought patterns, your thought process, so that you know what you're probably going to do next so you can intercept it. But talking openly with someone, I think the biggest thing is we're so guarded. We don't talk to people about anything, especially when it comes to feelings and emotions. The more open we are with someone, the easier it is to find out what their thought patterns are, and then you can connect a lot better.
And I'm thinking with what came to my mind as well right now with relationships, to have the happiness, to create the happy moments together, and then not to have, or if you do have that fear, then learn not to have the fear that something will happen because of that, but just when you have that happy moment, then just be fully present and fully enjoy it, not just yourself, but together.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is more about appreciating that moment when you're in it, because no one knows the future. No one knows what's going to happen. Something bad could happen. It might not. Nothing you do is going to affect that whatsoever. As my gran used to say, you could go out tomorrow and get hit with a bus. That was always one of our favourite expressions. And it's true. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So rather than letting that fear of what could happen completely ruin your life, enjoy and embrace the happy moments while you have them. Because to me, I think that's one of the main purposes of life, to find happy moments and enjoy them, embrace them more. The bad will happen whether you are happy or not, so you may as well try and be happy.
Yeah. And I was thinking in those happy moments as well, that when you create them, and well, I lost my thought on that, with the partner, just to allow both of you to be in a present moment for that, you know.
Yeah.
So that's the main thing, like with that, with being together, like you're not like looking at the other person and try to make that moment as long as possible, you know.
Yeah. Because what's the alternative? That you are alone, you don't have any happy moments? That's the alternative. Like
Yeah, that's true.
relationship thing is relationships end. Like most folk aren't with their current partner who the current partner isn't the person they're with when they were teenagers. So relationships end. That's life. However, it's good to try and create those happy moments and memories as best as possible.
Hmm.
And I don't think people allow themselves to embrace that quite as much. And if it ends up being the thing is, if that's the person you end up with for the rest of your life, then you've created a lot more happy moments. But you have to allow yourself to enjoy it. Like
Hmm.
if you could be with them for a long period of time, or for a short period of time, something happens to them, or you could be with them for the rest of your life.
Hmm.
But the thing that I always try and look at, you're with them for the rest of your life, so you enjoy those happy moments. So it becomes later in life you can think back on those moments, providing you don't have Alzheimer's or dementia.
Hmm. What that I remembered as well, what I wanted to say about that one before. Like when you have this feeling of happiness, it's kind of like you have natural feeling that comes with it right away, most like pretty much most of the time. You want to share it with somebody, you
Yeah.
know, and like it's usually your partner. Doesn't even matter. Like that's why like you want to share it with even a stranger. But
Mhm.
if you get to share it with your partner, that's when, like, when something good happen, you can't wait to tell to your partner, you know?
Yeah, exactly. That's why it's good if you've got a partner that will embrace that moment with you. It's the same, like to take it in a more simplistic form. Like you think about how we all share funny videos or memes with each other. Like we
Hmm.
saw it, we found it funny, it made us happy, so therefore we want to share it with others so they feel the same way as you felt. And then that's what you're trying to do with the relationships. Like when you're in a happy moment, something good's happened, you want to share it with your partner, and you're looking for them to share the exact same feeling. And if they don't share the same feeling as you, it becomes very disappointing very quickly, and that dopamine hit you've had just drops off rapidly.
Hmm. That's why, like, some of the moments you have to remind yourself, even it's like for me, like, I have to sometimes remind myself, I see that that person is happy, and maybe that happiness doesn't relate to me, or I'm not really excited about the same thing. But then in that moment, I'm happy with them.
Mhm.
So even if it's like let's say for like take kids, like they happy about finding a rock on
Yeah.
a street, and you just as a parent, you just share that happiness about finding a rock, which is actually nothing special for you, but you just generate more of that. And I think it's important with the partner as well that if you're not really excited about what your partner is happy about, you at least have to share their excitement about it to support them being happy in that moment,
Mhm.
because they need somebody to share it with, because then it becomes bigger for them.
Yeah, because that's what solidifies a bond between another person is when you're sharing a happy moment, even if you don't quite feel the same way. Sharing in it creates that bond with their bond to you, and then vice versa. There'll be moments that where you'll be happy where your partner probably won't give a shit, but if they're happy and excited at you because you feel that way, then that's showing there's a good connection. An example you've given there with the rock, like as a parent, you've got two options there. You can either be excited that they found a rock, or you can say, "Yeah, very good, it's a rock." Which one are you going to do? Because if you go, "Yeah, very good, it's a rock," you've taken away their happiness like that.
Yeah,
So what do
exactly.
you want? What do you want to do? Do you want to be the person who takes away all the happiness, or do you want to embrace it a lot more? And I think
Hmm.
that's the which side of the coin do you want to be on, as all overall. Do you want to be happy? Well, embrace it, or do you
Hmm.
want to stay as you are and just suck all the happiness out? As that concept, you kind of have to be a bit more open to it, embrace it a bit more, allow yourself to be happy. Like people deserve happiness.
Yeah.
It might be a little bit fake to start with, but once you're allowing yourself to be a bit more happy, you'll start to you'll start to get that dopamine hit a lot more. That's why people share things on Facebook so much for likes, because it gives a dopamine hit. Because, well, I like this. Do you like this? And they see other people liking it. So therefore, that's creating that happiness thing. Oh, more people like this. I must be popular. People must like me. And that's why you have like comedians, for example, as well. It's probably one of the best jobs in the world. I'm not funny enough to be a comedian, but I would love to be, because the amount of happiness you bring, you get all that laughter. Like, that must be an amazing feeling.
And you have also listed education and friendships.
Yeah, so it's more so how, if you've got a fear of happiness, how that can affect those. So it can affect education by not wanting to achieve goals, and that's the kind of anxiety part that comes into it. And same with friendships, by not wanting to be around people, not being social. And if you're not being around friends very often, they're not going to want to be around you very often, especially if they're asking to just, might not even be to go out anyway, it might just be to see each other. And if you are going, no, I don't want to see you because that'll make me happy, and then I'll end up sad, or whatever it might be, they're going to cut off, and they're going to want to be around people who are going to vibe well with them. And education comes in mainly because if you're not allowing yourself to be happy, like for me, achieving a good level of education or achieving a degree or a qualification of some sort is a happy moment. So therefore, if your happiness, or if your fear of happiness was crippling, you wouldn't bother putting in any effort into education, because you'd achieve something, which means you'd be happy, which means something bad would happen. But that's quite an extreme one. That's how far it can go. So in terms of treatment for it, first of all, I massively have a huge thanks to give to like CBT, cognitive behavior therapy. That's something I've went through many times, and we still have sessions now and then, because I'm always, something will happen, and then it'll be a trauma. It'll trigger it, especially with the work I do away from the online world. There's always going to be some traumatic event that's going to come up. So therefore, I use CBT to help process a lot of things. For anyone, I would highly recommend it, because it can help you find out what your thought patterns are and allows you to intercept them a lot more. Things like relaxation, meditation, exercise like is an actual dopamine release. So that can cause those feelings of euphoria, which allows you to be happy, be able to relax, be able to meditate, because relaxation takes away anxiety to an extent. So a lot of the treatments for anxiety fall into treatments for cherophobia. You've also got a bit more extreme with hypnotherapy, but again, that's excuse me, essentially interrupting your thought patterns and changing how you process things. And another one is just expose yourself to more happiness. So be around people that are happy a lot more. It might be a case of going to comedy clubs. It may be a case of watching more comedy. Like for me, that's a big one. Like I love stand-up comedy. And if I'm feeling a bit down, I'll usually watch something like that, or some really stupid movie that's just ridiculous, because then that'll bring me back up to level. But it's about exposing yourself to more. And to me, that just goes for life in general. Like if I am not very good at something, I'll expose myself to people who are. For example, when I was learning to play golf and get better at golf, I hung about with people who were really good. When it comes to like the kind of online business world, I purposely went into communities with people who had achieved a lot. So once you expose yourself to that social group or social circle, it's going to lift your happiness as well. And because you're happy a lot more and nothing bad's happening, you're going to see that it's really all just in your mind.
Yeah, I think that's the major one. I think like all those things will help. I'm not so familiar with hypnotherapy, but like all the other ones, that's exactly what I use all the day, like with everything. Like to change the
Hypnotherapy is
way
one
you
I
think.
use. I've used it a couple of times, hypnotherapy, and it's more so just to kind of, that was to reduce stress levels. So therefore, all it does is it speaks to the subconscious mind. So that's essentially what hypnotherapy is. It's someone talking to your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is what's making up all the thought patterns, the thought processes. So under hypnotherapy, you're having someone speak to that mind to say pretty much that what that previous thought pattern you had, we don't have that anymore. Now what we're going to think is this. And it's just a different way of interrupting your thought process.
I kind of use like guided meditation for that. So it's similar
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah,
for me, that's similar.
it all has a very similar outcome. It just depends on what's going to work for the individual. For me, I think CBT is the best one because it gives you a better understanding of your own mind. So therefore, it's easier for you to do some problem solving in the future. And that's what I do. I do it quite a lot. Like if I'm going through a period of um, constantly getting the same feeling, emotion over all the time, where's that coming from? I'm able to backtrack and find out where it came from, so I can redirect it.
Yeah, I
Which
do
is,
that as well,
well,
and I'm able to like now when something like now some automatic thought comes up and like I recognize it that it's not my thought, it's just like random thought from somewhere else, and like I've been practicing for a while, so now I can just say cancel and it just like cancels like 90% of the times or something like this. Sometimes I need to talk with somebody to make that thought to stop. But like most of the time when I say like because I already practiced, it didn't come right
mhm,
away. But now I can say
no.
cancel and that automatic thought that I know that is not true, it just like goes away and like
Mhm,
I because I know it's not true. You know, and it was not even my thought. It was something that I heard from TV or somebody else told me. You know, like you don't deserve it, and you just say like that's not true. Cancel, and then you can
mhm.
go on.
That's a really good method for actually having those words to say cancel because it just disrupts it straight away.
Mm-hmm.
But it just when usually when we're at our most vulnerable is when we're the most impressionable. So it could be, for example, try to think. It could be. We'll take relationships again. You've just went through a breakup, so you're at your most vulnerable, and then you see
Mm-hmm.
something on TV, like you were mentioning there, and then suddenly your brain takes that as truth, and then that creates a full different pattern. Like your brain just has all the. If you just think of it as like an actual mind map, that's pretty much how your brain is. It's got all these thought patterns all over the place,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll just take something, pull it in, and go. That's what happens. It just locks in a little vault, and that's how your brain makes sense of certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we get good ideas, sometimes we get terrible ideas.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely for being a young boy in a crazy neighborhood, like I definitely had some bad ideas growing up. But in your mind, that makes sense. So therefore you go and do it.
Mm-hmm.
So just my kind of final thoughts on a bit more about cherophobia is all of these phobias are essentially your brain of way of trying to protect itself. And it can come from past conflict, tragedy, or trauma. So that's what we're talking about there. Like your thought patterns, your thought process is your brain making sense of something to keep you better protected. So it can come from childhood traumas of this is what happened as a child. Therefore, if I do this, this is going to be the result. It could be the domestic situation we mentioned as well. I was in a relationship with someone. Here's what I said. Here's what they did. This is the outcome. Here's what's going to happen. So therefore, it's your brain's way of protecting because something happened you didn't like. So therefore, your brain goes, "We're not doing that because we're going to be in danger." Now, the danger it doesn't exist, but your brain doesn't know that, and in its own thought pattern, in its own process, that danger is very real, and that's what's going to happen. It doesn't deal with what ifs. It just deals. It's very linear. Of that A B C D is how it works.
Mm-hmm.
If it's absolutely crippling to the point you can't go out, you can't be around people, then I would always say seek professional help. I'm not a professional. This is my own views and things that I've experienced that I share with others to give them a better understanding. Because I spent a lot of time trying to work on myself to improve with that. However, there are people who are more qualified with a much better idea on these things than I am. So if it is absolutely crippling, and you can't live your life normally, go and seek help for it.
Yeah.
I'm definitely like a CBT specialist. And as Pirate said, with time, you can change your thought pattern and you'll conquer it. It's not an instantaneous thing. Once you start to work out what your thought pattern is and you're able to intercept it, the more times you do it, the more it'll just become natural because your brain will pick up on what you're doing and it'll take effect. Like your subconscious mind is incredibly powerful. That's the thing that works us and moves us all the time and gives us our thinking without us having to do it. Like you see your very quick reactions to things, it's your brain, it's your subconscious mind that's doing it. So the more you interrupt your thought pattern and you try and change it, your brain will know what you're doing, and then it'll take that new thing as its thought process.
Hmm. So that hour came like went past really fast and all that. The topic was really
Yeah.
interesting too. So
Yeah, it
that's
was very
cool.
good to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I've had stuff in the past, but I've never really done a full talk about it. And I quite enjoy these kind of chats about the mind. I find them really fascinating, especially about thought patterns and how they all work. Definitely,
Mm-hmm.
first time I went for one of those sessions, it got me absolutely hooked. I think that's why I was able to overcome a lot of those things really quickly because I enjoyed the actual education on how it works more
Mm-hmm.
than the treatment.
Yeah, that's true. And I think those slides and everything, they will help the viewer a lot because like a lot of people don't think about that. Like they don't even think that fear of happiness is a thing,
Mm-hmm.
which it actually is. And it doesn't have to be like 100% like that, but it affects a little bit like like even me. Like I know a lot about happiness. I'm happy like most of the time and everything. But occasionally I have those fear moments. I still have them occasionally. Not as
Yeah,
much anymore when I maybe did when I had when I was younger, or also when we go through hard moments, like I was going through divorce, and then I was going through
mm-hmm.
divorce, then I had those more of those moments. Or like somebody goes through a sickness, then like you said, breakup or sickness, or when they have like job loss or something like this they go through in their life. I think that's when it comes out a little bit more than, and for some people they live it daily.
Yeah, exactly. I like, for example, people in Ukraine just now, things like that, the stuff that's going on there, like they're living this daily. There's people who are still stuck in relationships where they're getting abuse on a daily basis, so therefore they
Yep.
think there's no way out. There's no sign of happiness going to happen. Um, they have children, and children are in that situation as well. I mean, there's the other one. It might just be nothing directly happened to you, but you're in a household where there was domestic abuse happening. So that's falls onto children as well, and that's all these different things that can fall into there. And when you're those low moments, you don't see any escape, so therefore you'll fall back to your default patterns,
Mm-hmm.
which is just protect, 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 protect. That's what your brain goes to.
Mm-hmm. And it goes down to like people who have like some kind of chronic sicknesses as well. Like I was talking with somebody today, and they already to the point they over much older, way older than 80. I don't know exactly, somewhere after 80. But then now in a point where they just in the bed, so not
Mhm.
able to be moving, but they still trying, that person still trying to find good things about it.
Yeah,
You know? And that's like
yeah.
because,
There's
and
so
that's
many
kind of,
different things there because they're still trying to look for the happiness, and then there could also be the medical thing. Like this what we've just talked about is a fear of happiness, which is a phobia. There's people who are not able to be happy, i.e., if you suffer from depression, for example, that's not to do with you not wanting to be happy, which is one of the phrases I hate. Is people say, "Well, just cheer up." Well, it's not as simple as that. It's a chemical imbalance. So for
yeah.
me, like I take especially something called sertraline, which is to balance the serotonin levels because the serotonin levels are too low. Now, I can't do
Mm-hmm.
anything about that. I need that medication to keep the serotonin levels up. It
Mm-hmm.
helps having therapy and being able
Yeah.
to understand happiness a lot
Yeah.
more. However, there'll be people who are in the rut where that's their life. They just can't physically be happy because it's a chemical imbalance. They just don't. The body just
Yeah.
doesn't allow it.
Mm-hmm.
So those are two different things. So this isn't a preach to anyone who's stuck in that situation. That's another fight entirely. I'm completely behind you 100%. Good luck with it. However, for people who are just not allowing themselves to be happy because of the fear of the outcome, that's a different thing entirely.
Mm-hmm. But the point of all of this is there is a ways around it. You know,
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be staying like that. There's like a lot of options, like uh professional help, just about knowing it, about it and acknowledging it, that makes a difference.
yeah. I think if we look back to like the original question you asked me of what what happiness is, or for me saying like what does happiness look like to you? What does happiness feel like? then that's where we would start from. If it was someone to say to me, I can't feel happy at all, say, well, what does happiness look like to you? What things do you see as being happy? Okay, we'll
Mm-hmm.
start there. We'll enjoy these little moments more, and then suddenly it grows and it grows and it grows, and that's what it will, for me. That's what it would start from. What does it look like? What would make you happy?
Mm-hmm.
And once you're
That's
able to
actually,
answer that
yeah,
question, we can move forward.
yeah. We have to close in a little bit, but yeah, that made me think about like exactly like you said. You have to know what it is for you in this moment, because don't look for it like from the future or something. You just have to look of something that makes you happy now.
Yeah, and it
And
could be
like you
so
have
many
your,
different things.
yeah, you have to have the future plans as well, but like the happiness is like the real only time that you actually feel it is that's like a present moment. And
Yeah,
it's
even
just
if
like,
it's 5 seconds, just allow yourself to be happy for that moment. Like, don't think about the future. Don't think about what's going to happen next. I know it's easier said than done, but allow yourself just to enjoy that happy moment.
mhm.
It could be so many things, like what
Like
makes
you
me
said,
happy.
eating ice cream, right? Was it ice cream?
Yeah, eat ice cream.
Yeah.
It could be something like that. Enjoy it,
Hmm.
embrace that little bit of happy moment. Like for me, my wife loves shopping. Like going, like for her, a pair of shoes make her happy. For me,
Hmm.
no, wouldn't care. I have to do other things. So that's why it's so different for everyone. Like once you figure out what that little thing is that makes you happy, you can expand on it and let it grow, and you can find other little bits and things that makes you happy. As long as you start to realize that the bad thing that may or may not happen in the future is get no bearing and no effect on whether you are happy or not. Like bad things are going to happen that are outside your control. That's life. Once you
Hmm.
accept that, life becomes a bit easier. Once you understand that there's a lot of things you can't control and you'll never be able to control, they're either going to happen or they're not, you can
Hmm.
enjoy happiness a bit more.
Yeah, and
But
then you can like understand that you can create those happy moments by yourself more,
mhm.
because those other things will happen anyway. So you might as well try to create the good moments regardless of those other moments happening.
Yeah, exactly. It's knowing that those are going to happen no matter what. So you can either be sad and they're going to happen, or you can be happy and they're going to happen, or not happen. I think that's how people get stuck. It's that dissociation of got the bad thing happens because I'm happy. No, the bad thing's going to happen whether you were happy or not. It's just
Hmm.
unfortunate life. Life has got loads of mysteries and bad things around the corner, but it's also got a lot of good things around the corner. So it's a case of enjoying those happy moments while you've got a chance.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, we're gonna close up, and Liam, it was great conversation. Thank you so much. Thank
Yeah, thank you
you.
very much for allowing me to be on your channel. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you. It was really good information. And do you have any closing thoughts before we're gonna say bye?
Yeah, just
Um,
embrace the happiness a bit more. Like life can be a shit show. As I say, there's so many things waiting around the corner for you. You never know what's going to happen. And like, unfortunately, to share a story, my father-in-law passed away a couple of weeks ago. We weren't expecting it. That was very sudden. Nothing I could have done could have changed that. Nothing anyone could have done could change that. However, it still doesn't stop me enjoying happy moments. Like, you may as well just embrace it, enjoy it as much as possible. We're not here for a long time, so just get the most out of it, the most enjoyment as possible.
mhm. That's great. Thank you everybody for watching. And I want to show yours first before we leave. I want to show the website here as well for you. So if and all the contact information for Liam and everything is in bottom as well. If you want to look up what he's doing in YouTube channel and homepage and Facebook, so look it up. And if you need contact with him, and like how we're gonna end. Enjoy your day. I would
Thanks so
say
much,
that.
everyone. Take care.
Yeah. Thank you, Liam. Thank you, everybody, for watching.